we were at the stage where we're doing keys to sustainability, the why, what, when, where, and how to help save our world. And the first thing we looked at was you, me, and the rest of humanity must have at least one good reason or a need to create a sustainable future. And I went through a whole write-up of just explaining that. And then as you connect all of the information, you become aware of these sort of historical trends, and you'll see what's happening and why, of course, we're facing all this existential crisis. And that is when I went through all of these things of global warming, loss of topsoil, lies and deception, everything. I went through that whole section for you. And then we got to the end of that, and I said, as nature collapses, so do the unsustainable civilization, pyramid scheme societies. They all inevitably break down, and there will be a natural redistribution of wealth and power. Then we did those stories last week, which was all about the riotings and the robbing and the pilfering and so on. And then it's like, what will ensure our safety and survival? Thinking, learning, choosing, focusing, practicing, changing, and transitioning to a sustainable future. I think that's ultimately, change our paradigm, change the way we think, change our world. And to do that, we need to prove what was wrong with the past values and beliefs, and the correctness and alignment of our values and beliefs with the natural principles of nature and the universe. And to really understand that, we have to look at who we are, what we are, where we come from, and so on, because otherwise it's out of context. And of course, so the third point in that series was then proving the correctness and necessity of an alternative love-based paradigm. And I did all of this in Beyond the Age of Ignorance, my book Gifts, and in the Feminine Revolution. Another important thing which I haven't been very good at is good marketing is essential. If we don't spread this knowledge worldwide, we achieve nothing. So maybe it's necessary to break it down into smaller, minor niches or smaller sections for people to be able to latch on and understand and comprehend. Because this is a lot. It's a lifetime's work, and I'm expecting people to know it, in 3 years or whatever the period of time they choose to absorb it in. Then change brought about by fighting is not a solution. The wars and everything that we have, we'll just destroy ourselves even more. So it's essential to convert what the wealth we have into a sustainable future, and as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And then only by changing the way we think and live in the world, then planning, creating, and growing, do we change and transition to a decentralized, alternative, equitable, happy, healthy, abundant, and sustainable future. This way is the best way to transition safely into the future. Of course, that has to happen as quickly as possible, instead of destroying to create. And that's been like the all the wars that have gone on throughout history, and ultimately the people who have true power, like banking systems and money creators and so on, and all of the big sort of corporations like war machines and so on, make a lot of money out of the destruction of things. So in terms of big business, it's beneficial for us to run around killing ourselves. So but it's not beneficial to us or life on the planet. Then instead of destroying to create at extreme cost and suffering to ourselves and nature, you use what we have to nurture ourselves, others, and all life and Mother Nature back into a sustainable living ecosystem. Now try to understand what we are. Now this is my thing for this week. We're conscious, connected, living animals, living beings of Mother Nature, living due to previous life on planet Earth. It's like if it wasn't for our forefathers and all of the living beings that sustained their lives throughout their lives, we wouldn't be here. We are composed of Mother Nature within her. We should know that life gives life to life. Without other life forms, we don't exist. Without natural ecosystems, we do not live. We are critical components of the living ecosystems on Mother Earth. If we're not integrated and one with them, with the ecosystems, we don't exist. Without all of these integral relationships, we'll begin, as we are, becoming unhealthy, sick, and we will all eventually die as we get further and further away from nature. And our whole paradigm right now, that's, the technological paradigm, computer age and everything, is all about keeping us distracted from life and living in our abstract minds and not in the real world. And ultimately, sitting here, me writing these books, my feet get swollen, I'm losing my muscle tone and everything. So it's a very hard balance for me to try and maintain myself as a living human being and do what I'm doing. So it's critical to understand that, our lives depend on being one with Mother Nature. So we are one. We're not just one people. We're one planet. We're one universe. We are conscious expressions of a connected, vibrating, living energy universe within it. I think before I carry on, do you want to comment on anything up to now? Not? Okay, good. We are conscious expressions of a connected, vibrating, living universe within it. We are composed of the energy, the vibrating energy of the universe, and the relatively localized energy of the natural environment around us. Relatively localized vibrations energy is a word that I sort of developed when I was writing my book, Beyond the Age of Ignorance. And really, energy combines with energy to form patterns, which forms what we call atoms, which is vibrating, spinning, localized energy. And it's all of the localized energy patterns that are moving and changing and flowing through space on our spinning world that composes everything on our planet. And it's in opposition to the materialistic view. It's a energy and wave view of the world and the universe. And like Einstein says, everything's made of energy. So I'm not incorrect, it's like this is proven scientific thought. So we're composed of energy of the universe and the relatively localized energy of the natural environment around us, which we call Mother Nature. I call Mother Nature. We are the energy of the universe. It's like this. The sun shines, the plants grow, we eat the plants, we grow. When we look out into space, we see the energy coming from the stars, and galaxies from way, way, way out in the universe. And unless we lived in a connected, electromagnetically connected field of space, we would not see that energy. We are energy beings. We are vibrating energy beings in every way, right down to our basic constitution. We're energy, and what we eat is the energy that the plants stored and converted back into energy, and that's what powers our bodies. The sun and our immediate environment around us have the most concentrated energy effects on us. That's why we have star signs, and the sun is the most concentrated energy that affects our environment. It's very, very powerful. Our energy relationships and alignment with those energy flows are the foundations or the backbone around which we exist. We are expressions of this whole flow of energy, which is Mother Nature, and if we don't live as one with it, we're dying. So imperfectly, we are flowing and constantly falling out of balance and continually trying to get back into balance and flowing in harmony with that flow, while still remaining loving, fair, considerate, and appreciative, happy, healthy, and sustainable relationships to it all. Now, that's so important. The relationships are connections to the plant life, to the animal life, I was just watching people hugging turkeys and all sorts of animals like cows, and so beautiful how animals have this love just like we do, but they have different ways of expressing it, and we should not be the feared predators on the planet. We should live in love, balance, and harmony with our planet as one with it, while still maintaining loving. So we're balancing and so on, while still maintaining loving, fair, considerate, appreciative, happy, healthy relationships to it all. We really should focus on that appreciation for life around us. Get out into the sun, smell the fresh air, and just feel the sun and the breeze. We need to be connected to that level where we can smell the change of weather. The importance of falling in and out of balance in cycles is that we learn and grow within life's constant flow of changes. So important to fall, get up again, and by doing so, that's where we learn and we grow. But we've fallen far too far out of alignment, and now we really, really, really need to wake up and get into alignment. Protecting, nurturing, growing, spreading life, and enhancing our natural environment to feed, support, and sustain the expansion of Mother Nature, all life, and ourselves within nature is a fundamental requirement for our continued existence. It's unless we're part of contributing, it's even as simple as peeing and pooping on the land, and just eating a fruit and throwing a seed on the ground. Everything that is, humanity as animals on the planet, we have lived as one with nature up until the very recent future with industrialization, where they forced us off the land and into cities. And that's one of the big downfalls of this civilization. It's so uncivilized, it's so unnatural. Protecting, nurturing, growing, spreading life, and enhancing our natural environment to feed, support, and sustain the expansion of Mother Nature and ourselves within nature is a fundamental requirement for our continued existence. Sorry, I just said that. We are expressions of living Mother Nature, living within the expressions of nature within nature. It's so important to realize that, plant life, photosynthesis produces the oxygen that we breathe, converts carbon, sequesters it into the ground, and provides us with the atmospheric and the cleaning of the environment, the cleaning of the waters through the root systems holding onto the earth. The water flows through the root systems and the fungi which is holding onto the earth, and it purifies it, and as it gets into little streams, it goes down waterfalls and on this journey downstream, providing life to life all the way downstream through the veins of the continent, down the rivers. It's so important to see how valuable all expressions of life are to us, to ensure that we live in a clean, healthy, sustainable environment. Chopping trees down is not doing us any good. We are evolved to survive within a clean atmosphere, on healthy lands, on healthy, clean river systems, and within healthy, balanced natural ecosystems, within the forests and the jungles and the grasslands and the mountains, as one with all other living beings, which we are currently driving to extinction. So anything we do to harm our environment, other life, Mother Nature's living and life-sustaining systems and the ecosystems, we do to ourselves. It's like, why are we hurting ourselves? It's like taking a hammer and hitting yourself on the hand again and again, and it's like, what are you achieving by doing that? It's not going to work for you. And that's what we're doing. We're harming ourselves so badly, but more extreme than hitting ourselves with a hammer, because you might lose your hand by hitting it with a hammer, but you're going to lose your life and all life on the planet by what we are doing. So we cannot sustain our lives with extended separation from nature, we cannot be separated from the universe And we cannot be separated from Mother Nature without ceasing to exist. We are very specifically of this world and ecosystem and of this universe within it. And everything's connected, so there's no separation. Even although we would like to believe that we're separate and we belong to this God and this religion and this, what? No. We belong to this ecosystem. Without the energy we get from being in alignment with it all, we die. It's just like we have energy beings, and that's what feeds us, that's what gives us energy, Mother Nature and the sun. And if we're not part of that, boom. Can you imagine our planet spinning away from the sun, or out a little bit this way or that way? That's it, we're done, gone, bye. As natural, conscious, living expressions of Mother Nature, we cannot survive without her environment, atmosphere, and ecosystems. She is the most incredible balancing composition of relatively localized energy ecosystems. We cannot sustain life without sustaining the life of Mother Nature and her life-sustaining systems. She is naturally composed and sustained by the balancing relationships, alignment, and harmonious flows of energy of everything she is composed of, which are all essential for our continued happy, healthy existence on Earth. We and all animal life breathe the same air. We drink the same water. Maybe not exactly that. We all drink fresh water on Mother Earth. Yes, it gets recycled, and some of it comes from the ocean or whatever. But within that ecosystem of the fresh water that we get, we drink the water. So it's not as if there's fresh water coming from another planet or something. This is the water that we share, and this is the land that we walk on, and this is the air we breathe. Yes, it gets recycled by trees and cleaned up and whatever, and those are the cleaning systems of Mother Nature, the water cycle, and various other systems that ensure that we survive. But we have overwhelmed those things with the destructive pollutions and poisons and so on that we've put into our environment. We get to live in and as one with our shared environment. We all should have equal rights to access to land, food, and water. Somebody else owning it, that's absolute nonsense. It's not the nature of nature, and it's not the way life has existed throughout the ecological development of life throughout natural history. Alright, so anyone want to talk, say anything?
I absolutely love the visual aids in between each of the comments. The especially the veins of the continent and the rivers flowing down the land. I think that's lovely.
I love the trees are all plant life are the lungs of the planet. It's like, oh my gosh.
Great. Okay. So I think you covered a lot of the get-tos and the considerations that exist among people in understanding that we are connected with nature and we are intricately connected with nature. And part of the issue is with, of course, the acidification, of so many of the world's population into dense areas, is that we've been really removed from the day-to-day contact with the nature that sustains us. There's been a push to have parks and trees in cities and things like that, but it's still not the connection with nature that we need in order to understand the symbiotic relationship that we have. And I think that's the biggest issue in having people understand, the climate crisis, and certainly how to create a sustainable world, because we're not on the path for that. And so as we have to educate and then motivate people in a pretty rapid order. And obviously, we've been doing this for about 50 years now with Earth Day. And still, Earth Day celebrations are not the entire community. It's a fraction of it. And those that choose not to participate in Earth Day activities, or even once a year understand what's going on with their world, are part of the issue in us to be able to affect change. We need that critical mass of people that get it, and people that operate and act according to what their understanding is. So whatever great ideas we have, obviously the best we can do is only shift that part of the population that is open to it and that even has access to understanding it. But we can't not do it either. Regardless of the numbers that we think we have, this is just the direction that we have to head. I wish we had 500 years instead of 5 years to deal with some of the issues that are popped up now. But we don't. So it's up to choose how to act and how to respond, and to continue to inform, and if we can, shift and transform people's thinking into getting on this bandwagon versus living in the comfort zone. As delirious as that concept is, and how comfortable can you be removed from nature and and the processes of it, but people have found ways to do that. And we're talking about from the richest, who isolate themselves, to the poorest, who have found comfort in whatever little piece of the world they can create for themselves. Sometimes it's just let me live off of the welfare of others, and I'm satisfied with that. So the mental structure that needs to be created across the world to move sustainability has unfortunately an uphill fight. And as we see it with the ridiculous things happening in Eastern Europe right now, we can understand that some people's motivations have nothing to do with sustainability, and the true sense of sustainability. It may be sustain their own lifestyle or project into the future what resources they're going to need and try to take it from other people. So, we have global problems, Dennis, and I know you're aware of them. I'm not telling you anything new. It's how do we get people to shift? And, many of us believe it's one by one, every conversation, not as proselytizing, even though that might help, but just as calmly educating people to make wiser choices every time they do something.
Yeah, people have to step out of their box house to their box car, to their box work, to their box coffin, and actually get back into nature. They need to reconnect. They need to know they're part of something bigger than their isolated individuality. I mean, they are part of this world within this world, and they need to step out of their box and get into that world. They're not alone. They are connected, each and every one of us. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we get back to where we need to be.
I agree. I was answering a Facebook post. A yoga instructress, very good friend of mine, she sent this image of a yogi hugging a tree, like quite high up in the tree with her legs out spread. She's behind the tree, so you can't see her. You can just see her arms hugging, and you can just see her legs sticking out like branches. So I responded by saying, I love hugging trees too, although yoga tree hugging is new to me. Trees and all photosynthesis plant life are the lungs of our planet, giving us the clean oxygen we breathe, cause rain to fall onto our precious topsoil, filtering fresh water streams and rivers. Rivers are the veins of the continent that spread life downstream. What would we be without magnificent trees? And then, of course, she had a positive, like, "You're so amazing." And I said, "You're so kind, thank you." And then she comes back a while later and she says, "I want to collaborate with you." Bam. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that'll be wonderful." And I send her information, and then she had a family issue she had to deal with, and she said she'd get in touch after she sorted that out. And then today she sent me another one. "Okay, I travel back to Florida on the 6th, so any time after that works for me. My slate is clean." So, I mean, you know, we just keep on, and then maybe she's she's in a position of knowing a lot of people and in places that can make a difference. So, maybe that was like one of our first important steps.
Yep. One by one, little by little. And when we can get to one to many and one to masses, then we'll do that as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a journey, and it's like we needed this little recovery time, and lots of stuff to deal with and everything. But I still have to go in to sort out my issues, and I'm supposed to go on Friday, but I seem to have this. I don't know. I hope it's not COVID, because then they'll delay it another month or two or something silly.
Mm.
But once that's attended to, then I'll be good to go. But yeah, I mean, that's what it takes. I think we just keep on trying, and keep on doing the best we can. And before we know it, if you keep on doing, things happen. I started, I hadn't written anything. I wrote the first thing and the second thing, and and it eventually turned into a book, and then it was 2 books, and then it was 3 books, and then we went on this journey together with these discussions, and it wasn't anything, and then it became something. You know, every journey starts with like simple sort of thoughts. So, and we're going there. I think we're getting there. Am I? Oh, I've reached the hour. So, yeah. So awesome
I
stuff.
have a couple of minutes left.
Okay, well then you can carry on. So, anything you would like to say, or
Hmm.
Alex would like to
Well,
say? Carry
I I think I may have said it, but I just wanted to look at so the keys to getting people to change their lives and live sustainably, right? Which is
on.
kind of what we're dancing around here right now.
Uh-huh.
Um, so don't we wish that we had those keys, um, and that wherever we use them, they worked? And I'm not sure what they are. Um, certainly there's the carrot and the stick have been known to be keys, and you know, creating comfort for people, giving them a false sense of security, opening up their vision bigger than what they see for themselves. Many of these things are what will help people join in, and actually give effort to something that they believe in versus just living the life that's already existing for them. So, do you happen to have a list of keys specifically, Dennis, or are we
Well,
talking?
I've been looking at these as certain keys. All right. I mean, if you don't bring it home, if you don't show them what's happening, uh, they have no idea. They're sitting in their apartment. They have no idea what's going on, and if they realize the loss of topsoil, that's huge. It's a huge, like, and so on. And if you go through all of them, and they realize the magnitude of our problems, hopefully that's a key. But then, of course, like you say, fear and the carrot at the end of the stick, giving them a
Hmm.
cookie every time they do something right, positive reinforcement. There are all of those things. I'm thinking, if you comprehend who you are, like really at that level, it's like you cannot ignore this. You cannot ignore that you're getting sick, you're stressed, you got heart disease and blah blah blah, and you got cancer and you're dying. And for what reason? Why? But if you appreciate who you are, and I think that is one of the keys to choosing. Yes, somebody has to
Hmm.
enter into your space and say, "Hey, hello, time to wake up. you're asleep, and give you the green pill, give you the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding and the perspective and everything. And then you're like, oh my gosh, unless I get up off my chair, if nature collapses out there with the locusts like that thing you sent me, and all of a sudden there's no food coming from big agri business, and all the stores are empty, the shelves are empty, how am I going to sustain my life? So, you know.
Well, Dennis, that's, as you know, that's a real world situation right now. The supply chain has been interrupted for a year or so, at least as far as we understand it to be, and certainly the Ukraine debacle is disrupting all kinds of things, including food supply and transportation. And the prices of food has gone up dramatically in a matter of months, pretty much around the world. So we're in that emergent situation where, had we had a garden we could pick things from, whether it be out on our balcony or shared down the block, or we have property or whatever it might be, even some of those growing towers now that you can do inside. So yeah, we've been very disconnected from our own ability to survive, and we've given our power to so many different factions who basically just make money off of the process and remove us from the equation. So yeah, these are things that people get to consider. The concern part of it is that so many people don't have answers for themselves that they end up doing things that are counter, riots and theft and all the other reptilian responses to survival.
Yeah, violence.
And you
violence.
can't blame them, but that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Violence is not the solution. And protesting, yes, if it makes any gains, yes, but they are so good at turning your protests into being, you're the bad guys, and you crapping on our streets, and you breaking down buildings. They turn it around on the protesters, so the protesters seem to be the bad guys on the television set,
Sure.
when in actual fact the protesters are doing the best they can. So I don't see well, I did it for many years, so I learned all of the tricks and the chicanery and the lies and the nonsense that they do, that media get. And then I talk to somebody who's in that world, and they have no concept of what the homeless people are suffering, and what's going on really going on the streets. And so that to me is not like it can be a useful tool, and I don't want to undermine anybody who's trying on that level. If they can get media to support them, that would be wonderful. But actual violence on the streets is ultimately, if it comes to that type of thing, and it's like, okay, we're done with this civilization, and that's what happens with every civilization. You wonder why that all of these ancient Greek, ancient Roman, and all of these power-based pyramid schemes were destroyed. And it's like, first of all, nobody ever wanted that to continue again. They wanted to go back to the land, take back their land, the right to land, food and water, and live sustainably on the earth. All right. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to get rid of that power-based system, one. And then, of course, you're in cold climates and that sort of thing. So chairs and furniture and paintings aren't worth anything if you're freezing in the street, So they get burned, It's like they have no value. Money has no value. It just gets burnt. It's like some way of starting a fire, So that's why we have these destroyed remains of what was supposedly a great civilization, but they were never great. They were always like, ancient Egypt was built on slavery. It was like the people had been captured and brought in to produce or create these huge pyramids and centralized wealth and power. It was a horrific system, no matter how pretty history will paint it, and like it's 7 wonders of the world. There's nothing wonderful about it. They are despicable. And carry on, Alex.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say, I mean, going back to the keys though, we don't want to destroy. I mean, we want to get away from, we don't want to riot, we don't want to protest, we want to get away from those power-based systems. They will eventually collapse on their own if we're not supporting them. I know that's like an airy fairy concept for the most part. But I mean, if everybody just stepped out of their houses and whatever little lawn they've got or balcony they've got, they grew something. There's a progression. There is, okay, my hands are in the soil, my feet are in the soil. There's a connection. You start to see the little bits of land around you that you can grow something on. Before you know it, you've got pests and you're learning about companion planting and you're learning about natural pest controls and things like that around you. There's a progression that you go through once you get your hands in the soil, once you get your feet in the soil, once you open your eyes and you start to see. We want to move away from depending on the local supermarkets for our foods. We want to get away from, the big business and the big corporations and be independent of the major electricity departments or whatever you want to call them in the different councils or worlds or whatever, and have solar panels and have okay, well, maybe not solar panels, ways of generating energy, ways of cooking. Gas is there. I know it's not like the best thing, but it's better than electricity. But there's also other ways of generating power and cooking and going from there. And the moment you start to open your eyes to those opportunities, a natural progression happens. Your natural thought process changes to being more sustainable. And when the solar panels and the batteries don't work, we look for other options. We want to be independent of those systems. We don't want to be burning down buildings and fighting with the police in riots down the streets. We want to do a peaceful process by just moving away from that. Being independent of. We don't need to fight. We don't need bloodshed on our hands. Um, there is other ways.
Yep.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, you can actually get gas from using your, having like a feces tank, and that produces methane gas, and then you tap off the top of that, and boom, you've got methane gas. Permaculture has like many examples of. It's not necessarily permaculture. They basically, what permaculture has done is taken all of the best ideas of sustainable technologies and it's made it into what we call permaculture. But it really is, um, what are the sustainable practices that have been practiced throughout history, and what are ways in which we can like live incredible lives, like changing the angle. Like when you build a house, make sure the angle of the house is facing to capture the sun, and maybe heating the wall in a cold area like you, heating the central wall with having your fire and tubes passing through the wall and out of the flue at the top. And of course, now that radiate it uses thermal mass, which is the rock or stone that the central wall is made of, to hold onto the heat and to slowly radiate it out and keep you warm throughout the night. So there are so many incredible ideas, but like Alex is saying, like the first step is to go what I do is I take an avo pip and put 3 sticks in it and put it in my windowsill and fill a jar up with water to halfway up the avo pip and just keep that level. And bam, you've got an avo tree growing, and then you just go and plant it outside, or go and put it, plant it where it's not going to get in somebody's way at some stage later in life and they're going to chop it down. Put it in a place where it's going to benefit somebody into the future. and then just do that with your avopips, and then it's, oh, I've got mangoes, and now I've got onions, and I've got this, and I've got carrots, and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden you're growing a whole lot of things with the food that you're consuming every single day. I mean, it's like, it's so easy. And then oh, I want to take it further, like create like little garden beds, or hanging gardens, or there's so many things that you can do outside your, on your balcony, or outside your window, or in local community gardens and so on. There's so many of those things which you can do, and it's better to do it as a community, because then there's this like collective responsibility, and it's like, and you get to build family and relationships, and that's the journey to having sustainable relationships with other humans, and teaching other people as you go. So there's wonderful, wonderful journeys that I've been going on and practicing, and Alex has been, and Brenda's been going on with us. So it's like you've got to really, like Alex is saying, is get down to the basics and move your focus away from fighting to doing, to creating.
Definitely that. I have to go now, Dennis.
All right, cool.
And Brendan
Thank you.
and Alex. See you next
It's
week.
wonderful.
Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Take it easy. Cheers,
Have a
everyone.
great one.
Okay,
Cheers,
guys.
guys. Bye.